All right, so get ready, because today we are diving deep, deep into the world of ceramides. You know, those tiny molecules that are like the unsung heroes of having healthy skin. I mean, you know, we're obsessed with finding the right moisturizers and all that. Well, today we're going way beyond like the surface to really uncover what the science is all about behind these little wonders and how they became like skincare superstars.
It's a really fascinating journey. We're talking about like a whole scientific evolution from back when these fats basically were seen as kind of just there to now when we realize that they're absolutely crucial for protecting and hydrating your skin.
So, like, are we talking ancient history here? Like, how long ago did scientists even start paying attention to this stuff?
Well, it's not as long ago as you might think. Let's rewind back to like the 1950s. Imagine a time when skincare was all about, cold cream and pretty basic moisturizers. Scientists knew skin had fats, but they didn't really understand their function beyond just surface level stuff.
Wow, wow. Okay, so no one was like slathering on ceramide cream back then?
Not quite. But that's where the story gets interesting. In 1952, Rogers and Serret, they made a discovery that kind of shook things up a little bit. They found that the outermost layer of your skin, the stratum corneum, it actually contained lipids that weren't just coming from things like sweat or oil on the surface. So this suggested that there were like unique lipids deeper down that were playing like a crucial role in keeping that moisture in.
So hold on, you're telling me that our skin has its own internal hydration system. It's not just about what we're, putting on top.
Exactly. That was like the big aha
Yeah.
moment. This challenged the whole idea that dry skin was only because of like stuff outside your body.
Wow. So just drinking tons of water wasn't like the answer after all. There's actually a whole system at play, huh?
Right. And that system relies heavily on those lipids. Another key study, this time in 1955 by Shelley and Blank, they found that if you kind of mess with the skin's surface lipids, it leads to like way more water loss. This really reinforced the idea that there's like a lipid seal that actually prevents dehydration.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture here. So these lipids are like the guardians of moisture, making sure our skin doesn't, totally dry out.
Exactly. And to kind of cap off this whole decade of like shifting perspectives, we've got Rothman's, famous analogy, the brick and mortar analogy from 1959. Think of your skin cells like bricks, and the lipids surrounding them are like the mortar holding everything together. And even though ceramides themselves weren't specifically identified yet, this analogy really captured the importance of lipids in keeping the skin barrier strong.
I see, I see. So it's like these lipids, including what we now know as ceramides, they were the unsung heroes,
Yeah.
working behind the scenes to hold everything together.
Exactly. And as we move into the 1960s, things get even more interesting. Technology was getting better and better, allowing scientists to identify more and more complex lipids. And this is where we start to hear about sphingolipids, which is the family that ceramides belong to.
Sphingolipids. That
Yeah.
sounds serious. Okay, so are we finally getting closer to our star molecule?
We are. In 1962, Downing and Stewart, they used these new techniques, and they were able to identify sphingolipid fractions right there in the stratum corneum. This was a huge clue that these weren't just like minor players, they were present in significant amounts.
Wow, so scientists are starting to realize that these specific types of lipids, which, we now know include ceramides, are a much bigger deal than they thought at first. It's like they're finally getting the recognition they deserve.
Exactly. And it's not just about the quantity. In 1964, Toner and Oakley, they took things a step further. They started to analyze the structure of sphingolipids. And what they discovered was that these molecules were actually perfectly suited for forming like layered watertight barriers. Imagine those bricks again, but this time the mortar isn't just holding them together, it's actually creating a waterproof seal.
So the shape of these molecules actually influences how well they keep moisture in. That's incredible.
It is, and that structural insight, that was crucial for understanding how sphingolipids, including ceramides, are contributing to the skin's barrier function.
Okay, I'm already starting to feel like I need to pay more attention to ceramides.
And towards the end of the decade, things took another interesting turn. In 1966, Wirtz and Moeller, they started to notice that there were like different subclasses of sphingolipids, some of which seemed to be particularly good at like regulating moisture.
So it's not just sphingolipids in general, but different types within that family, and some of them are superstars at hydration.
Right. And then in 1969, Moskowitz and Frost, they made a really crucial observation. They found that people with diseased skin often had lower levels of those sphingolipids.
Okay, this is where it gets really personal.
Mm.
It means that these molecules aren't just about having like nice looking skin. They're actually crucial for overall skin health.
Exactly. And this sets the stage for the 1970s, a pivotal decade, where ceramides really take center stage.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Let's find out what happens next in this ceramide saga.
Welcome back. So last time we left off in the 1960s, scientists were starting to uncover like this whole world of sphingolipids and, how they're connected to healthy skin.
Yeah, things were definitely heating up, all those hints about how important these lipids were. It was only a matter of time until ceramides, stepped into the spotlight, right?
You're absolutely right. And the 1970s did not disappoint. This is the decade where ceramides finally get their official, debut. Scientists finally had the tools to, zoom in on these molecules
Right.
and figure out what makes them tick.
Okay, so no more just talking about sphingolipids. It's time for ceramides to have their solo act. I like it.
Exactly. And the first, big breakthrough came in 1972 with Downing, Stewart, and Strauss. They officially identified and named ceramides as, key components of the skin barrier.
It's like a scientific birth announcement for these amazing molecules. What a moment. But it wasn't just about giving them a name, right? They had to figure out what these ceramides were actually doing.
You got it. And that's where things get even more interesting. They discovered that there wasn't just one type of ceramide. There were multiple types, each with its own, unique composition.
So it's like realizing that the ceramide family is actually this, diverse group with different personalities and talents.
That's a great way to put it. And understanding this diversity is, key to understanding how they function in the skin. And then in 1974, Imokawa and Kuno made a really groundbreaking discovery. They directly linked ceramide levels to how well your skin holds on to moisture. Basically, the more ceramides you have, the better the hydration.
Okay, that's huge. It's like proof that ceramides are actively involved in keeping our skin hydrated, not just standing by and watching.
Right. It was major validation that they're really important for maintaining a healthy skin barrier. But it doesn't stop there. Just a few years later, in 1977, Wirtz and Downing, they took things even further. They revealed the precise structure of the skin's barrier.
Okay, I'm picturing scientists with, tiny tweezers carefully arranging these molecules under a microscope.
Haha, you're not far off. What they found was this incredibly elegant structure called lamellae, these tightly packed layers made up of ceramides, fatty acids, and cholesterol. Think of it like a, perfectly organized brick wall, but on a microscopic scale, preventing water loss and keeping, all the harmful stuff out.
Wow, so our skin is like a fortress, and ceramides are part of this super strong wall.
Exactly. And as if all that wasn't enough. In 1979, Hogan and Maibach, they provided clinical proof. They showed that disrupting that ceramide-rich structure actually damaged the skin barrier, leading to more water loss and more irritation. But here's the really exciting part. They also showed that you could actually replenish ceramides, and that helped repair that barrier.
Oh, wow. Okay. So not only did they prove that messing with ceramides was bad news for your skin, but they also showed that you could potentially fix the damage.
Exactly. And that paved the way for the development of all those ceramide-based skincare products that we see today.
Okay, wow. So we've gone from not even knowing what these lipids really were to recognizing them as essential for skin health.
Yeah.
And doing that we can potentially replenish them. That's amazing.
It really is amazing how far our understanding has come. But the story doesn't end there. The 1980s brought even deeper understanding of how ceramides are involved in specific skin disorders. Researchers started realizing that ceramide deficiency wasn't just about, dry skin. It was linked to, way more complex conditions.
Right. It wasn't just about having dry skin. It was about having, a compromised skin barrier, which could then lead to all sorts of problems.
Exactly. And one of the, most significant findings in this area came from Yamamoto and Yoshikawa in 1982. They discovered that people who had eczema, so atopic dermatitis, they had significantly lower ceramide levels in the areas where they had eczema.
So eczema is actually linked to a lack of ceramides. This is, huge.
It was a big moment in understanding the role of ceramides in skin health. It suggested that, replenishing those missing ceramides could potentially help alleviate those symptoms, and not just for eczema, but also for other skin conditions.
It makes you wonder if other skin conditions might be linked to ceramide deficiencies as well.
And you're absolutely right to wonder that. In 1985, Elias and Brown, they discovered that specific types of ceramides were actually reduced in people with psoriasis, that chronic skin condition with the itchy, scaly patches.
So it's not just about a general lack of ceramides,
Yeah.
but specific types are missing or depleted in different conditions. Each type has its own, specific job to do.
Exactly. And this opened up the possibility of really tailoring treatments. to address the specific needs of different skin conditions.
So it's like saying, okay, if you've got eczema, you might need to focus on boosting these specific types of ceramides. But if you've got psoriasis, you'll need a different combination.
Exactly. And that's where things get really exciting in the 1990s because all this research starts to translate into like real world solutions.
Okay, I love where this is going.
Yeah.
It feels like we're finally getting to the point where all this amazing science is starting to benefit people directly.
You're right. The 1990s saw ceramides moving from the lab to the skincare aisle. One of the key studies that paved the way for this was conducted by Lorette and St. Leger in 1992. They tested creams that actually contained ceramides, and the results were incredible. They found that these creams significantly improved skin hydration, and they also reduced scaling in people with dry skin and eczema.
So they had real-world evidence that ceramide-based skincare could actually make a difference. It wasn't just theories anymore.
It was huge validation for all the research that had been done up to that point, but scientists still needed to figure out which specific types of ceramides were the most beneficial.
Right, because we now know that not all ceramides are created equal. They all have their own, strengths and specialties.
And that's where Emokawa comes in again. In 1994, he identified two specific ceramide types, NS and NP, and these were particularly effective in restoring barrier function.
It's like they found the star players in the ceramide family, the ones that are, really excelling at building that strong skin barrier.
Exactly, and this discovery was a game changer for skincare. Companies could now create targeted products with specific types of ceramides designed to address those specific skin concerns.
Wow, so we're moving away from, generic ceramide creams
Yeah.
toward more, personalized solutions.
Absolutely. And the story doesn't end there. As the decade progressed, research continued to uncover even more about the synergy between ceramides and other lipids.
Oh, right. It's like that brick and mortar analogy that we talked
Yeah.
about earlier. It's not just about the bricks themselves,
Yeah.
but how they all fit together to create that strong, resilient wall.
You got it. And a key study by Eppel and Feingold in 1996. They showed that combining ceramides with cholesterol and free fatty acids in the right ratios actually led to even better results than using ceramides alone.
It's all about teamwork. These components working together to create, a truly amazing skin barrier. I love it. But where does the story go from here?
I can't imagine what other secrets these tiny molecules hold.
Welcome back. We've covered so much ground already, from those early discoveries about skin lipids to the realization that ceramides are basically key players in maintaining that healthy skin barrier.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? And as we kind of move into the 2000s, the research takes this really fascinating turn. This is where, genetics enters the picture, and we start to understand how our genes can actually influence our skin's ability to make those precious ceramides.
Oh, genetics. I've been waiting for this part. It's like we're getting to the, deep personalized level of skincare now. It's not just about what we put on our skin. It's about what's happening, inside, right?
Exactly. And one of the biggest breakthroughs in this whole area was the discovery of a gene called filigrin. You might have even seen it mentioned on skincare labels or something.
Filigrin. Yeah, that does ring a bell. But how does a gene, actually impact our ceramide levels?
Well, filigrin is a protein. It's crucial for forming that, strong skin barrier we've been talking about. And back in 2003, Nomura and Akiyama, they published a study. They linked filigrin to ceramide production. It turns out that when filigrin breaks down, it releases components that actually help make ceramides.
Oh, okay. So it's filigrin is a key ingredient in the ceramide recipe.
Yeah.
If you have a, healthy filigrin gene, you're more likely to have healthy ceramide levels. Makes sense.
Exactly. This was a huge discovery. It showed that ceramide production isn't just about the enzymes that are directly making the ceramides. It's about this whole chain reaction that starts with that filigrin gene.
It's like a domino effect. One thing leads to another. And speaking of enzymes, you mentioned them earlier. They play a role in regulating ceramide production too, right?
Yes, they do. So a few years later, in 2005, Arikawa and Ishibashi, they identified these specific enzymes. They're called ceramide synthesis and sphingomyelinases. And these enzymes basically act as on-off switches for ceramide synthesis.
Oh, wow. So not only are our genes influencing ceramide production, but these enzymes can fine-tune the process.
That's right. And this opened up some really exciting possibilities for maybe developing new treatments that could potentially boost ceramide levels from within the body, not just, applying them topically.
That's fascinating. It's like a two-pronged approach,
Yeah.
supporting your skin's natural ceramide production
Yeah,
and also supplementing it with topical products.
exactly. And as the research continued, it became more and more clear that ceramides were actually involved in even more aspects of skin health. So in 2007, Hashim and Hubin, they found that different types of ceramides could actually influence inflammation and immune responses in the skin.
Wait, hold on. So ceramides are like multitasking. They're not just like building that skin barrier. They're also involved in the immune system.
You got it. Certain types of ceramides, they can actually help calm down inflammation and reduce the release of those, inflammatory molecules.
That's incredible. They're like the peacekeepers of the skin,
Yeah.
keeping everything like balanced and calm.
I like that. And to kind of round out the 2000s, Denda and Suchiya in 2009, they found that things like diet and overall health could also influence ceramide production.
Wow, so many factors at play. It's not just about genetics and what we're putting on our skin. It's also about like what we're putting into our bodies and how we're taking care of ourselves overall.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that like holistic approach, doesn't it?
Exactly. It really highlights just how interconnected our health and our scare really are. But that's not all. As we enter the 2010s, the research really zooms in on this idea of personalizing ceramide solutions, figuring out how to tailor treatments to individual needs.
Okay, now this is where it gets really exciting. It's like we're entering the era of, bespoke skincare.
You're right, and this whole shift was driven by huge advancements in technology. Scientists were now able to measure and analyze those individual types of ceramides in the skin with incredible precision.
So it's not just about like measuring overall ceramide levels anymore, but understanding the specific types present in each person's skin.
Exactly. It's like having a fingerprint for your skin's ceramide profile. And this allowed scientists to understand how even subtle imbalances could be contributing to various skin concerns.
That makes sense. It's not just about having enough ceramides. It's about having the right types in the right amounts.
Absolutely. In 2011, Masukawa and Narita, they developed these sophisticated methods to profile these individual ceramide species in human skin.
Hmm.
It really paved the way for truly personalized skincare. And this personalized approach wasn't just for treating, major skin diseases. In 2013, Youngerstead and Agner discovered that even people with sensitive skin, they had reduced levels of certain ceramides.
So even if you don't have a major skin condition, like eczema or psoriasis, your ceramide levels can still impact your skin's overall health and how it reacts to things.
That's right. This finding really opened up the possibilities for using ceramides to address a much wider range of skin concerns.
It's like saying that everyone, regardless of their skin type, can benefit from paying attention to their ceramide levels.
Exactly. And the research just kept going. In 2015, Van Smeden and Boustra, they made another interesting discovery. They found that the length of ceramide chains actually mattered too. The longer chain ceramides created a more rigid and robust skin barrier, while the shorter chains allowed for more flexibility.
Okay, so it's not just about the type of ceramide, but also about its structure
Hmm.
and how that influences its function in the skin.
Precisely. And this finding led to the idea that you could potentially tailor ceramide formulations to match the needs of different skin types. So someone with a really compromised barrier, they might need a product with longer chain ceramides to really strengthen things up, but someone with healthy skin might just need a little boost from those shorter chain ceramides.
That's amazing. It's like customizing your skincare routine based on your skin's unique ceramide needs.
Right. And as we kind of approach the end of the 2010s, Krishnaya and Khan in 2019, they focused on finding better ways to deliver those ceramides to the skin. They looked into things like, liposomes and nanocarriers. These are tiny vehicles that can actually transport ceramides deeper into the skin.
So it's not just about having the right ceramides. It's about making sure they can actually get to where they need to be to work their magic.
Exactly. With these advancements in delivery systems, ceramide treatments became even more effective and targeted.
This whole journey has been mind-blowing, honestly. We've gone from barely understanding these lipids to recognizing them as these essential guardians of our skin with connections to our genes, our microbiome, our environment, and our overall health. It's incredible to think that these tiny molecules play such a big role.
It really is. It highlights the complexity and wonder of the human body. And I have no doubt that as we continue to research and understand these amazing molecules, we'll just uncover even more incredible insights.
And for all our listeners who are, totally eager to learn more about ceramides and how to incorporate them into their skincare routines. We'll be sharing tons of resources in the show notes. including links to, some of those groundbreaking studies we talked about today.
Mhm.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought. We've learned that, ceramide production
Mhm.
is influenced by so many factors, right? From
Mhm.
our genetics to our environment to that like fascinating world of the microbiome. So what does this mean for the future of, skincare and overall health? What role might ceramides play in addressing not just skin conditions, but like broader health concerns?
That's a great question to ponder. The world of ceramides is like full of possibilities, just waiting to be discovered.
It's been an amazing journey. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. See you next time for another deep dive into, another fascinating topic.